Welcome to Content with Character, the weekly podcast that'll give you the momentum you need to create content with more ease, clarity, and laughter. I'm your host, content copywriter Emily Aborn, and I'm all about unconventional marketing approaches. I believe in your big ideas, and I'm excited to help you share them in a way that's distinctly you. Welcome back to the Content with Character podcast. As you may or may not have noticed, I've been sort of laying the groundwork with you on this podcast as we really ramp up together. And today's episode is going to be all about how to infuse your character into your content more. And also like the 4 ways in which you can get started in doing so. My goal today is to just help you take action right away. And if you're not creating anything, I want to give you a little bit of momentum so you can get started with ease. As you heard in my intro, I'm the host, Emily Aborn. I'm a content copywriter, which means I spend most of my time helping messages and ideas find their voice. I take content writing and copywriting tasks off people's plates, and I save them lots and lots of time and frustration. And in addition to doing it for you, I provide lots of free resources or done with you resources. So for example, this podcast is one of those things. And I'm also the host of the She Built This podcast. I write a really extensive, informative blog where I dive into more of these topics as well. I also do workshops, run group programs, and things like that. So I will be sharing on this podcast opportunities as they come up so that you can get in on some more tools to help your content marketing, to help you as a writer or a podcaster or whatever the case may be. I want to make sure that you are the first to hear about that. So the very best way, probably outside of listening to the podcast to be in the know is to make sure that you're on my email list by clicking the link in the show notes that says sign me up. I promise I do not spam. I only send 1 email per week. It usually has some sort of fun story in it and then any resources that I have for you at that time. And I do personally respond to each and every person that emails me back. I love hearing from people. I have so much fun with my emails, and also you don't even have to read them. I read them to you so you can feel like we're chatting even outside of just this podcast episode. Okay, so that's the resource I have for you. And on that note, I say we dive into the topic du jour. I want to talk about dandelions. More specifically, we're going to talk about gardening in a minute here, but we're going to start with dandelions, which you probably would not actually plant in your garden. But anyway, my logo for my business, which was designed by Lindsay Taylor, a brand designer of Tailored Image, is a dandelion. And the way that dandelion came about was actually twofold, okay? So first of all, Lindsay and I were working together on a branding project. I was doing the website copy. She was doing the brand design for a CPA. And one of the concepts that Lindsay had came up with for her logo had a little dandelion in it with her name after it. So Lindsay sent over those 4 concepts, and the client responded that she liked 2 and not the other 2 as much for her own brand. So once I saw that woman did not scoop it up, I texted Lindsay immediately and I was like, I need that dandelion. Now, Emily, why dandelions? Okay, why are you so obsessed with dandelions? When I was a kid, I was always up to something entrepreneurial and enterprising. It started like at a very, very young age. And as a way to motivate me to do things, my parents would like kind of build a little bit of a business around it or pay us to do things. So one of the chores that my dad put us up to was picking dandelions out of the yard. And he said he would give us a penny a piece for the dandelions. Now, in retrospect, this is a very inefficient way to remove dandelions from your yard because, as we all know, they are a weed and they will just grow back in 5 seconds if you don't actually get them at the root. But he's my dad, and his dad logic does not always make good logical sense to me, but I did what I was told. So I was determined to pick the most dandelions at a penny per piece out of all 3 of my brothers. and I think my dad also put us up to this later down the road with like pine cones. I remember putting pine cones in a bucket and also getting a penny a piece for those. But anyway, dandelions will always be this symbolic reminder for me of that streak I have inside me to be industrious and to be resourceful. And I've just always had that enterprising like sort of mindset no matter what. Furthermore, I'm not sure if you did this, but when I was a kid, I also used dandelions as a predictor of like how many children I would have and whether or not my wishes would come true. You know, if you're not familiar with it, you blow the seeds off, and however many are left on the stem, that's how many kids you're supposed to end up with. And if you blow off all the seeds and you made a wish, then that wish will come true. Well, as it turns out, I had 0 kids, despite not always blowing off all the seeds, and my wish did come true. My wishes, I should say. So I think that the science there was a little off. But anyway, maybe they're still working on that. Okay. Dandelions, as you can tell, have a lot of like whimsical memories for me and personal meanings. And then to top it all off, I heard this podcast with Angela Lucier of Speaker Sisterhood. She just like shared this random idea, shower thought. It was a shower thought about dandelion marketing. And I can't remember her full analogy, but basically in my head, as I received it, it prompted me to think about dandelions as it relates to messaging. And, you know, when those seeds take flight and the wind blows them to other spots, more dandelions magically appear, and then more, and then more, and then more. So overall, I think you get the idea. It's a very cool marketing concept. Dandelions, like wildfire, or flowers, are representative of how our unique voices and messages can like spread and flourish. Okay, one more fun thing about dandelions, I promise. It's just one more, but they are a very overlooked flower. Like people think that they're just a weed, but they're kind of badasses in the plant world. Like you can eat the greens. When my husband and I first met, I would ask him all sorts of random questions in like getting to know him. Questions like, I mean, these were really silly questions. Like if you were a vegetable, what vegetable would you be? And he told me he would be dandelion greens because they're bitter and not everyone likes them, but the right people, they know what's up, and bonus points because they're very healthy for you. Anyway, that was a total digression, but dandelions, you can eat the greens. Actually, almost every single part of the dandelion is usable, which goes into like this big thing I have about how almost every single part of our content can be repurposed. Dandelions are also extremely resilient. They can like grow through tar in your driveway, for goodness sake. So that's why the dandelions. And I want us to channel the dandelions when it comes to our content and our marketing efforts too. I want us to harness that wish and that whimsy, but also that goal setting and determination, you know, that ability to take a risk and to send our message into the wind so that it can spread like wildfire and turn into other beautiful, I mean, they are beautiful flowers that are doing the same. So you, my friend, you can be a ripple effect when you become a dandelion, but you have to focus on being undeniably you and not worrying about what the other dandelions and daffodils and roses and the flowers that everybody looks at and oohs and ahs over are doing. You just have to be like, you know what? I'm a dandelion. I have this super secret inner beauty and strength, and I can grow through tar. No weed killer can crush my spirit. Okay. So that's like my marketing. That was the pep talk. So now to continue the planting and gardening analogy, I want to share how we can actually like do this in our content marketing. A lot of people tell me that when it comes to content creation, they don't have a strategy or they don't have a plan or they feel all over the place. So this is super easy to help you fix all that. It's just really simple. And I use a garden analogy or a garden metaphor to help you do that. Is it an analogy or metaphor? I have no idea. If you figure it out after I share, please write to me and let me know if this is an analogy or metaphor. I did Google the difference and I still can't figure it out. Okay. Anyway, this simple analogy will help you to just have a really, really simple framework with your content creation so that you don't feel so all over the place. And I'm going to help prevent you from making one of the biggest mistakes I see when it comes to people's content, which I will get into and share about as we go. But whether you're like me and you want to channel the dandelion as your spirit flower, or you want to pick another flower or a tomato or a squash, I don't care. But just think of the way that you are sharing content with your people as a little garden, okay? In order to have a healthy crop, you need to have proper soil, water, sunshine, and then in order for it to spread and grow more gardens and impact others and grow more flowers, you have to have that wind to spread those seeds. And maybe sometime we'll bring pollinators into the analogy. That might be like our cheerleaders, super fans, and collaborators. But let's just leave it right here for now. I told you this is so fun. Okay, so let's focus today on the soil, water, sunshine, and wind, specifically as it comes to your content. So what are these elements? What makes them up? Soil, as you may have imagined, is the foundational content. It's like laying the groundwork, okay? It's laying the groundwork of who you are, what you offer, what you do, how you help and work with people. And if you're feeling bold, maybe even your why or your driving force is in that foundational content. We can probably all think of a business owner or two that we've been following for years or networking with, and we're still just not really sure what they do. And a lot of times this is because they haven't honed in on with clarity or told you what they do. They're just not telling you and reminding you of what they do or the transformation that they provide, how they do it. So I do encourage people to get really clear on what they do, but be able to describe it in a way that's like almost to a kid, just so that we kind of keep some of that industry jargon out of it. I heard an embodiment coach recently describe what she does, and we were reflecting to her that like a lot of people don't understand what exactly an embodiment coach is. What even is embodiment? And so she actually asked one of her kids to describe what mommy does, and the child said, "Oh, you help people get out of their heads and into their hearts." And when she said it like that, I was like, oh, that makes 100% sense to me. Whereas embodiment coach, I don't really know what that is. I mean, I bump into this even with content and copywriting. And so I'm always trying to just really distill what I do and how I do it and what it's going to do for other people. So think of your soil content as that, the what of you offer. And here's a good way to do this, okay? Sit down and like list out or map out each and every product and service, course. If you have a podcast, that's a product. Write it all out, everything that you have to offer, and like put little bullet points under it describing what it entails. I imagine that for most of you listening, this what plus the who of you, like who you actually are, that's already going to be like at least 10 social media posts. Then we get into the how you help. So what do you actually provide people with? And when you get into that, like what can they expect to feel? What are the benefits of working with you? What are you, how often are you meeting with them? And what can they kind of see over time as they work with you? Is it going to make them happier or more productive or more money? I encourage you to really think about those things, and then you probably have like another 10 social media posts. Also think about your why. And this does not need to be some like big existential why. No one needed to get in a near fatal car accident for you to have started your business or had a rock bottom moment. Your why can just be that you are building the life you want and you love helping other people. Your why could be like mine. I just don't like being bossed around. And when it comes to creativity, I can't stop, won't stop. So I have to put it to good use or else I'll be out there picking up dandelions for a penny a pop, you know? So think about your who, your what, your how, and your why. And these are the foundational pieces of what you do. You do need to remind people of these. We have to lay the groundwork for people in our content continuously. Remember when you get new followers or new people into your world or new listeners, like you have to reintroduce yourself, which is why I do try to set a good example for you in this with each and every podcast episode that I do. My goal is to kind of like reintroduce myself in a different way because I want to lay that groundwork for you, that foundational piece. Okay, let's get into the next piece of your content, the water content. Every garden needs water. Not too much, not too little. The water content is the educational content that you're sharing. It's the nurturing. It's the I see you, I understand you, I am you, I was you. Here's a tip or a resource, that kind of thing. And as I share about this category, I want to highlight that you do not need to do this in the way that everyone else is doing it. You also do not need to announce that you're sharing something educational. Oi. If Tips Tuesday is not your thing, don't do Tips Tuesday, okay? You can share educational content without like announcing that it's educational content. You could even also share it in a different way. Like when I share educational content, I notice that I often prefer to use stories. So that could be it for you too. You know, educational content for you might look more like a story, but it might also look like an analogy. It might look like a tip. It might look like a tool or a resource or an article or a podcast. It could be a client story. And here's another thing that I think we forget sometimes. Like you don't always have to generate your own original content. I'm not talking about copycatting. You can share content that is helpful from somebody else. So like a resource from someone else can count in this helpful content. Like bonus points to you for collaboration. If somebody else shares my podcast as a helpful piece of content, that's bonus points for them. It could even be something that an article that you read or someone else's post on LinkedIn that you reshare. It's like, here's food for thought. You know, this got me thinking, and I would love to get you to form your own thought or opinion on this matter too. Remember, we do not need to give an entire masterclass in an Instagram post. But you also can give an entire masterclass in an Instagram post if you want to. But think about for you, how do you like to teach? And really capture that in the way that you decide to share educational content. Like I said, I really love storytelling and I love sharing insights and ahas from what I learn in my own life, whether that be my experiences, books I'm reading, conversations I'm having, etc. So a lot of the way that I share educational content is I digest information and then I sort of like raise a conversation around it because I want you to sit with it and think about it for yourself. I don't always get super informative and educational with like tips and actionables, but where I do that is on my blog. So if people really want to go like deeper into things, I often break down pieces in my blog. But even then, I'm still telling stories. I'm still trying to keep it like super digestible. But figure out what that educational and helpful content looks like for you. I might even sit down and sort of like list out the things that you always, like if you're a coach, the moments when you always want to jump in and coach somebody on something like those, how could you help somebody through that with a story as an example like that? Sharing educational content really is a benefit to you. Like it helps to paint you. First of all, it helps build that know, like, and trust. And it really paints you as the thought leader, the expert, the knowledgeable person that you are. And I think that another piece of value here is that it helps you hone in more on your message. Like it helps you hone in on what matters most to you and also to your people. And I've heard the school of thought go both ways. I think that you can spoon feed somebody every single piece of information that you know, and they are still going to hire you and want to work with you. That said, if you're not a fan of giving away the farm, I totally understand. So just start sharing helpful content in a way that feels comfortable to you and things that you're like, I can share this, and they'll still want to work with me, which in my opinion, like I said, I think that they will no matter how much you share. Okay, ready for the fun stuff? I'm ready for the fun stuff. The sunshine content. Sunshine is important in our gardens. It is the inspirational, personality-filled light fun stuff. Now, ideally, you will be sprinkling a little bit of this into each and everything you create because you're you. So you'll be putting your personality into your content, no matter how quirky, weird, goofy, nerdy, buttoned up you are. You'll be putting this into everything that you do, everything you share. But specifically in this like sort of category here, sunshine content is like the way that people can really connect with you on like a human to human level. And this looks different for each and every one of us. So I'm going to give a few examples. Like some people, I see them sharing a lot of quotes or memes. I love sharing a good quote. That is like really fun for me. Some people tell personal stories, and they could even just be kind of like silly personal stories. Like they don't have to be helpful or have a point here. Pictures of their dogs or their kids or their cats or some out of work passion or hobby that they have. But sunshine is also the inspirational stuff, you know, the stuff that's like, you can do it. Like it's just like straight up encouraging. Okay. And it's also community geared content that cheers people on or gets them to celebrate alongside you. Also asking people questions. I think that can be like fun, engaging questions, you know, sharing some of your like out of the box opinions on things. And they can be, again, fun and silly things. They don't have to be serious. Behind the scenes of like how you actually run your business and like day in the life stuff. So I want to say a few things on this. First of all, choose what you want to share. Like you don't need to be sharing every last detail of your life. You can if you want. You can also choose to be a little bit more professional, but you still can let your personality shine. The two are both. You know, you can be professional and fun. You can be professional and whatever you are. For me, I do a lot of this kind of content sharing in my Instagram stories. That's where I really let my personality shine, with like no real objective except to just have fun and like maybe make people laugh and connect with me about whatever silly meme or reel I saw. I also like sharing some of the behind the scenes stuff there, which I guarantee you is not very thrilling behind the scenes. But what this does for us and what this does for you, what this does for me, is it really helps your people, like your ideal people, raise their hand, nod along and be like, oh my gosh, I do this too. Or that is totally me. Hand raised, right? In a nutshell, it helps you find your people and it helps you to repel the rest when you let your true self shine through in your content. So like I said, like, of course we want to include our personality in everything that we're sharing, but this is just like sort of, it's like your playground, you know, like I say, just have fun. Like you have to have a little bit of fun in your content and show people you. I love letting people know that I am just like right along here. I am right alongside you. I have my sleeves rolled up. I'm experimenting. I'm getting messy just like you. Like I am building a human business alongside you. And so this is how I sort of connect in that way. And like I said, this is just your area to loosen up. Show books that you love. Show the fact that you ate way too many chocolate covered raisins yesterday, or the struggle in navigating Market Basket as a New Hampshire resident. Like it doesn't need to be anything. It doesn't need to be silly. It doesn't need to be coy. It doesn't need to be sarcastic. It's just how you connect with people. All right. Last but not least, and then I'm going to share what I see people doing wrong so that you can avoid it. We will get into now the wind content. Think of wind as your moneymaker. So we're going to shake the moneymaker and harness the wind. The wind is the promotional content that guides people to your products and services. Events, services, promotional offers, products. This podcast is like I would use a promotional post to guide people to this podcast. This is often content created with direct calls to action. So for example, if you're looking for a website copywriter who understands the art and science of writing for the Google to take it off your plate, contact me at emilyaborn.com. That's a call to action. If you're looking for a CPA who's future growth oriented when it comes to helping you navigate your finances, contact me at 1-800-CPA. Book a call with me. Send me an email, send me a DM, work with me, sign up for. These are examples of that. With this category, I urge you to, number one, keep in mind that if you don't offer it, they won't know it exists. Like, you're not being annoying. You're just telling people that you're in business and this is how they can get it and this is what it is. But if we don't offer it, if we don't put it out there, people will not know that it exists and they won't know how to get it. And that's why we have to focus on using this content category, but also making really clear calls to action so that people know the exact steps to work with us. Just the other day, someone asked me, how do I find the link in your bio? And I was like, darn, most people know what that is and where that is, but I cannot assume that they do. Same with like writing me podcast reviews. I have to like describe how to write a podcast review. Like, go to the Apple app, go to this podcast, scroll down the page until you see where there's stars and a little pencil icon. Click the pencil icon and it'll give you the chance to write a review. Or maybe you click the 5 stars and it'll give you a chance to write a review. One of those two options gives you the opportunity to write a review. But you just have to be really clear with your calls to action. And remember that, like, just because you know where something is, because you know how to sign up for something because it's your business, not everybody does. Okay, number 2, reminder in this category. Remember that by not sharing content like this, by not sharing promotional content, which I know for some people, they think of this as selling and it feels scary, but by not doing it, you're doing people a disservice because you have something that could help them. And then by not sharing it, you're not actually like helping them get the resource that they need. So again, let's just not think of this as annoying or obnoxious or relentless. Like, we're running businesses. A business operates by making money, and we need to start the process of selling our products and services by leading them and guiding them to the next step to working with us. Now, with that said, I want to invite you to consider like how it feels most natural to you to make the ask. Like, everybody has a different level of comfort around it. So just practice some for yourself and see what feels right. You can try some, you can even Google calls to action, but there's different ways to say the same thing. I invite you. I welcome you. Buy now in all caps, right? Register here. Like, there are all sorts of different ways to say it. I like to say something, I like to be a little cheeky with it. Like, if I'm your person, don't miss out. Let's do this, things like that. So anyway, you have fun with it. Find the call to action that is right for you. But just remember to keep in mind that people need it to be like seriously simple to figure out how to work with you. Okay. And just for fun, I guess back to those pollinators, it's also really helpful if you can get other people in on being the wind for you too. I did a content repurposing workshop back in April, and I gave a couple people a link so that they could help me to be the wind around the workshop. Like, I needed pollinators. And this is also the case when you're in collaboration with other people too. You really get that like double wind power, and they can help you spread that message even further. If you're a listener and you love this podcast and you know somebody that it could help, you could be my pollinator by sharing it with them. Okay, so get those pollinators on your side. Okay, now what I see people doing wrong, but you're going to have the leg up because you're going to know how to avoid this mistake now. I see people dumping all of their effort into one or two of these categories. And then like pretty much, it's pretty consistent. Like, they focus on 2 categories, but then they forget about the other 2 categories. They've got healthy soil, okay? Everyone knows what they do and what they stand for, but they never invite people to work with them. Or we know exactly how cute their dog is and the mountain that they just climbed, but we have zero idea what they actually do. Or they share lots of hilarious memes and positive quotes, but again, no idea what they do. Or they pummel us with tips and it just feels like sort of preachy at this point, right? Because they're always reminding us of like our high school English teacher, but we don't know how to give them our money. And then the other one is when somebody is constantly selling you something or only show up when they want to sell you something. That might be my biggest pet peeve. Maybe someone even popped into your head for each and every one of those examples I just gave you and you were like trying really hard, A, not to think about them, and B, not to cringe. This is why it is so important to grow that healthy content garden so that you can have a strong foundation, so that you can nurture and help, so that you can give sunshine and light, and then guide people to working with you and giving you money. So your action step for the week, if you choose to accept the assignment, is to consider each of these categories for yourself. And what I would love to see you do is brainstorm, list, map out 2 or 3 bullet points under each one of the categories. So to recap it, under the soil, you're going to list out your who, your what, your how, your why. There you go. You have 4 bullet points under that category with pieces of content that you could start using right away. Under the water, brainstorm, 2 or 3 educational bits that you can share with your audience. There you go. You have a couple more. For sunshine, write down 5 things you feel comfortable sharing about you and your life and start capturing photos that represent those pieces of you. And for the wind, jot down all your products, your services, your offers, your upcoming events, your workshops. You'll have about as many posts as you have legs of your business ready to write and send out into the world. And then you just kind of keep them on like a really nice little healthy rotation. Like I don't think you have to go, sunshine, water, soil, wind, but you can do that if it makes it easier for you. But just keep in mind, like be cognizant of that mix and making sure that you're pulling from each of those areas. So yes, I just gave you a month's worth of content ideas. And to build on this, next week, we're going to talk about creating like a really cohesive plan for your content so that if you do feel all over the place with your strategy, you will be able to take these pieces and you'll be able to have a little bit of a way to move forward on it. I'm really, really looking forward to that chat with you. If you loved this episode, I welcome you to share your thoughts and your ahas with me at emily@emilyaborn.com. And I would love to invite you to give me a 5-star review on the Apple Podcast app. Like I said, when I was describing how clear we need to make things, you have to go to the show on Apple Podcasts on the app on your phone, scroll down a little bit. You will find a little pencil-y thing where it says, write a review. And if you get stuck and you need help and you want to write me a review, text me, email me. I will send you a little video walking you through it because I love doing that. And they do kind of make it confusing and hard for us. Okay, on that note, see you next week, my friend. Thank you for being here. And do not let anyone put out your dandelion wildfire of excitement about those big ideas. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Content with Character. If you loved the episode, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast, rate, review, and share it with someone else you know it could help. For more content and visibility tips, visit my blog at emilyaborn.com and be sure to connect with me on Instagram at emilyaborn. I'd love to hear how this inspired you to take action.